As long as you have your health, be thankful for it and keep away from all these drugs and stuff that the kids are pushing today.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, 3 dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
You are listening to WMNHLP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA.
Until it all comes crashing down, shedding the aforementioned.
Welcome, everybody. Here we go. It's that time again. Matt Connerton Unleashed. And we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. And I'm not alone. John Hopwood is here at the news desk. Let me bring your mic up, sir. Say something. Talk.
Hi.
Well, you've picked an unfortunate time to get all quiet on us because I'm having an issue with Skype, and I need to figure that out to bring our guest in. So, what have you been up to, John?
I have been talking to Big Steve, who lives out in Big Bend, Washington, where they filmed, David Lynch filmed Twin Peaks, and told him about how the number 13 on Good Friday fell from the satanic porthole. I've yet to send him the video of it, though.
I see.
Did you actually take the video and cut it out so it'd be there just as a special standalone?
Video of what exactly?
When the number 13 fell out of the satanic portal over your desk.
I wish I'd had the forethought to do that.
What do you mean?
Well, I was so freaked out when it happened.
Flustered would be a more Christian word.
Yes, I was quite flustered.
Freaked out. It's like sounding like somebody from an R. Crumb cartoon. Who, incidentally, R. Crumb did have that period where he illustrated the story about the Sasquatch woman that allegedly kidnapped him in Oregon. No relation, I hope, to your family.
Oh, well. I'm making progress here.
You are?
Yes. What are you doing your television program this week?
I just might. I have my chatbot Annie as a co-host now, since my other two co-hosts, Kyle and he who shall not be named, have disappeared.
Ah, yes.
I've yet to check out the police blotter, but wherever you are, guys,
By the way, that sound you hear, it sounds like a submarine almost. That's actually Skype. I'm trying to dial up our friend. I don't think it worked. Ed, are you there?
You can always just call in.
That did not work. We might have to do that. I don't know. I rebooted Skype and it looked like it was working. Oh, and it just closed.
We never really ever had problems with Skype.
Once in a while, it's rare. I'm going to actually reboot this computer.
Eric, the classic film reviewer on Fridays, often does my show when he comes in on Skype. Does he Skype into you in your show, Matt Covington?
Usually just calls.
Matt, why are you so obsessed with Donald Trump?
I barely talk about him these days.
You had a satiric song about him. I could think of a much better song that came out of my own record company that would have been more appropriate to open the show.
Really?
What do you mean, really?
What was the satirical song you're thinking of?
I've been told that I have been, what is it called, shadow blocked?
Yeah.
Have you been shadow blocking my songs? I know that since the majority of them were of a guest that can no longer be allowed inside this studio until he indeed becomes mayor, because he is running for mayor, but we're not even allowed to talk about that,
No.
I guess. No.
Yeah, we don't.
And we're not talking about mayor like M-A-R-E. We're talking about the big office.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm in town on Tuesday, I was thinking of going down to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to speak my mind, but I decided not to, Matt.
I don't think I've ever seen you on a Tuesday. I didn't know you existed on Tuesday.
I used to often be here on Tuesdays at night.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Back in the day. Way back in the day.
Oh, yeah, before, you shadow blocked me and limited me to just a few minutes every third Wednesday.
Well, I'm waiting for the computer with Skype on it to reboot. It's having a little... It's been a long time since I've had a problem with Skype, at least a year. So figures this would happen when we've got a guest I'm dying to talk to, but it will reboot. It is rebooting, I think. Oh, that's good. That's a good sign.
Perhaps it's that person's problem. Did you ever think of it as that?
No, it's definitely on our end because it froze up.
Now, Matt, where exactly did the number 13 fall down from?
It fell out of that air vent right in the ceiling.
That doesn't make much sense, does it?
It was very strange and very frightening. I was frightened.
Isn't that the voice where the late John McCain used to communicate to us in the studio?
The ghost of John McCain, yes. He used to come out of that. That's where we would hear his voice. And, and the mics would pick it up, of course.
13, which, there is a whole science dedicated to the number 13. I think it's called Trixodemicity. And that would suggest that the late John McCain is now a denizen, which is a fancy word for resident of hell.
Oh, well, oh my goodness.
Oh, he did many wicked things, Matt. I remember interviewing him several times, and he was tightly wrapped. Now, some people say tightly wrapped means the opposite of what I mean tightly wrapped. And I really don't want to be a hegemonist, being a white cis male and insisting that my definition of tightly wrapped is the correct definition of tightly wrapped, if you know what I mean. But I would just like to say to the audience, those that are not already against me for reasons already enumerated, that he was tightly wrapped. He reminded me of a grenade with the pin out and the spoon has already flown. The spoon being the lever that, was a safety. It was quite fun to throw grenades.
So I think we're going to have Ed. He just offered to call in, and I think we're going to go ahead and do that. The computer is rebooted, but that doesn't mean that Skype is going to necessarily work this time.
Are you having trouble with your AI?
Yes, AI.
AI is very woke these days. But then again, your show is to a degree woke.
Let's see how the phone connection is. Ed Opperman joins us via phone. Hello, sir.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I apologize for that, the Skype issue. It's been a long time. It's been at least a year since I've had a problem with Skype. But there you go. Technology will fail us at times.
Yeah, I was just using it earlier today, but I got to tell you, man, I'm not surprised that technical difficulties seem to follow me around.
Oh, there you go.
I told you it was his fault.
And this is John Hopwood is with us today at the news desk. So I don't know if you gentlemen know each other at all, but there you go. So welcome to the show, Ed, and just a quick intro. Of course, Matt Connerton Unleashed. We are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners around the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. And during our conversation today with our friend Ed Opperman, if you have any questions or feedback or anything at all, feel free in the Facebook live chat. Looks like there's already a lot of folks in there. Feel free to type something in there. Of course, you can also hit me on social media at Matt Connerton, or you can email me during the show, matt@mattconnerton.com. And Ed, it has been a long time, my friend, since we've had you on.
Yeah, way too long, man.
It has. I do know you recently did, you, of course, are the host of the syndicated show, The Opperman Report. And I know you just recorded an interview with Jenny regarding the petition that she was here talking about on Monday.
Yeah, that was very good, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. When is that going to air? When is that available? Do you know?
Well, like I was telling Jenny, when we record the shows, we send them out to the editors, and they put in the different commercials for the different markets, and then it goes up on the drives. The stations play them whenever they want. When I play it, it'll be on a Friday night as a podcast, a live podcast that I play on Friday nights. The best place to find that is Spreaker.com, and that'll probably be in the next 30 days.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Now, you are, of course, you're the host of the Opperman Report. You are a private investigator, and you have your own agency, correct?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
And you, as I mentioned, I posted on social media earlier that you were going to be coming on today, and of course, you've worked on some very interesting cases, and you know a lot of interesting people. You've met a lot of interesting people, and I was actually talking with Jenny the other day. I forget if this was on the air or off air, but I remember when we had you on before, you were talking about how you're one of the few people I know, and I don't know if this has changed, But when we had talked before, you're one of the few people I know who believes that OJ may not have been guilty. Does that hold?
Well, yeah. I talked to a lot of people in that case. And especially Jeffrey Felix, who was his guard, his corrections officer, and he wrote the book Guarding the Juice. It seems to me that what happened is there was a drug debt that OJ was paying off these drug debts for Nicole and Faye Resnick and them. And this last occasion, when they showed up to collect at OJ's house, he says, "No, that's it. They're on their own." The drug dealers went over to Nicole and apartment there, and OJ freaked out, followed down there, and ran around in the blood, and then ran away.
Ah, okay. So you still believe that's possible?
Well, there was a what do you call it? In the preliminary hearings, the medical examiner who actually did the autopsy in the case, in his report, said that there were 2 knives and likely 2 killers.
Okay.
And he never testified in the actual trial. They had a different person from his office testify who didn't do any examination at all.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. Can you tell us too about? There's other things I want to ask you about, and you had mentioned too, and as we were messaging back and forth earlier, something that I definitely am curious to hear more about. But can you tell us about your show for those who are not familiar, for the uninitiated, the Opperman Report, what you do on the show, and what kinds of interviews you do and subjects that you explore?
Well, I try and cover anything that's interesting. In 2013, I did the very first radio broadcast on Jeffrey Epstein. And I did a lot of work on the Epstein case, way, way, way in the beginning, before anybody was talking about it. Then later on, I had on Stephen Hoffenberg, who was Jeffrey Epstein's business partner and mentor over at Tower Financial. And he became a regular guest, updating us with what was going on down in the Virgin Islands.
Oh, wow.
And before the arrest and before the death and all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of Epstein stuff. Today I had on a woman from Georgia who runs an organization about the prison conditions in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Just fascinating stuff, what goes on there. Recently I had on Megan Walsh, the daughter of John Walsh, America's Most Wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about her personal issues with her parents and custody situations, but also, too, some very mysterious stuff that went on in the abduction and murder of Adam Walsh that really hasn't hit the papers.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Would you say the interviews that you do on the show, are these largely people who you wouldn't necessarily see or hear interviewed in more mainstream media, either because they're talking about things that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about, or explore things that maybe don't necessarily match the established narratives on some subjects? Or how would you describe who these guests are in a broad sense, the type of people that you have on?
Well, Matt, I think a standard question is, okay, tell us the official story and then tell us what really happened.
Yeah.
With the guests, yeah. So, I've had people, we just had recently, I interviewed Tiller Russell, who's a documentary filmmaker who made the Waco film. It's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And I had him on, and I really, really like this guy, too. He did a lot of films that I really respect. The Odessa operation about these Russian mobsters and coke dealers who wanted to sell this Russian submarine to Mexican drug cartels. He did the 7-5 about Mike Dowd. So we know a lot of the same people, we know a lot of the same topics, but he did a recent documentary about Waco, and I've interviewed a lot of people that were in that building when it was set fire, like Clive Doyle.
Wow.
And David Thibodeau, so I have my own personal perspective on that. Like in the documentary, one of these FBI or ATF guys yells out, "And David Thibodeau is a liar." I got to tell you, man, I've been dealing with David Thibodeau for years. He's anything but a liar.
Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you bring someone on and obviously they have a story to tell and they might reveal some things that, again, maybe you don't hear in the mainstream or the established narrative, and then they just end up giving you something just far beyond what you expected, or maybe even something that you're not sure you believe. Maybe they end up telling you something so fantastical you go, I don't know if this is true either. this narrative.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll have guests come on the show, and they're talking about cases that I'm personally involved in.
Yeah.
And I don't reveal that before I book them. I think my job as a host, as an interviewer, is just to take down their statement and get them on the record, and then let the audience decide if they're full of it or not.
Yeah.
What I found more than being surprised by information is how I'll have a guest on who's written a book, and they talk about something in the book, and it's very volatile information, and I bring them on to talk about that one thing that I want to confirm, and then they make believe it never happened. It was never in the book. There's a whole system out there of, and like, not just catch and kill and NDAs, but even after a book is published, that they get to these authors and they pay them not to talk about certain things that are in the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have you ever had anyone on who, I would assume this has happened, where you've had them on multiple times because maybe they come on to talk about a specific subject or an incident and they give their story, and then you end up having them on again a year or two later because a lot of new things happen? Or do you talk to most guests only once and then that's dealt with? Or how do you approach that?
Oh, no, absolutely, man. If I have a guest on and I find them credible, I love to have them come back and flesh out the story even more, or come back with new information.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Richard Kerr, who was this young man in Ireland who was abused at the Kincora School for Boys over there in Ireland, which is a huge scandal over there. And the reason why his story is so interesting is because there's very credible evidence that one of the people who abused him was Roy Cohn, the attorney, the New York City attorney, mob attorney, involved in a lot of stuff, Roy Cohn. And there's pictures of this Richard Kerr traveling around. The kid lived in an orphanage. And there's pictures of him in a little suit traveling around all over Europe at the same period of time that Roy Cohn was over there. And he just popped up with some information for me the other day about this fellow Crow who's been supporting Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice.
Harlan Crow, is that his name?
Right. Are you familiar with his brother, though?
No.
Oh, his brother's involved in this whole big sex operation, sex trafficking operation that's widely reported out there, and down in Texas. And Richard Kerr came to me and says, "Hey, Ed, I know this guy too, man. I drove him around."
Oh, wow.
So it's a small world, man. And I do have people come back and flesh out their stories.
Joe Friday in the Facebook live chat says, ask about Maura Murray. Is that someone you're familiar with?
No, I'm not. Maura Murray. What's the story?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see if Joe Friday posts something additional to that.
Okay.
Anybody ever fool you where you bring them on the show and they give you their story, their version of events, and it seems credible and you buy it, and then you realize later that they got one over on you?
I did a show once. The facts of the story are true, but then later on I found out that the guest was a CIA agent.
Really?
And it's illegal to out somebody as CIA.
Yeah.
And more recently, I had a guest on my show, and basically I was like the first person to ever interview him. And I just found out very, very recently that he was an active recruit for the NSA.
Okay.
What do you mean what do you mean an active recruit of the NSA?
He
the NSA is something I know about.
Participated in an NSA contest, an NSA recruiting contest for computer security, and he won.
Okay.
He won the contest, and then he stopped using his real last name and started using a pseudonym for his last name. And then, so he's never come out and said, "Oh boy, let me tell you about the time I infiltrated the NSA and they tried to recruit me."
Right.
He's just gone dark on that whole area of discussion.
Oh, interesting. Our friend Jason Federson in the chat room, JFed, said, I asked you if anyone ever fooled you. He said OJ fooled him. Interesting. Well,
OJ's listened to the show.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
Have you ever tried to get him on?
No, I haven't bothered. Years and years and years ago, I actually had his cell phone number, and I had the cell phone number of the phone that he had when he was in prison, too, but I never called either one.
Oh, okay.
I was talking to his ex-girlfriend, Christine Brody, who had a very abusive a relationship with O.J. and was terrified of him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. I know that OJ doesn't do a lot of shows anyway. He doesn't. I heard him on a podcast maybe a year ago. I don't know. It was like some sort of sports podcast, and they brought him on and they started asking him questions about
sports or about murder.
Well, they were. That's the thing. They were asking him questions about sports, but then eventually it got to asking him questions about murder and. I think OJ left at that point, so he didn't stay for the entire show. So it's pretty hard to get him to commit to something. I would imagine. You had mentioned in our messaging earlier, Ed, about the Bidens or the Biden stuff, as you put it, and I'm curious to know. Hear more about that. I assume it's got a lot to do with Hunter Biden and so forth. But I am curious. I'll kind of give you the floor on that. What we should know about that.
Well, okay, boy. I have a little bit of involvement in the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Oh.
And I've also had some, all of the guests. I've had several guests on the show who are intimately and personally, directly involved and still friends with in obtaining the Hunter Biden laptop from Dr. Keith Abloh's house. And they're all still friends with Giuliani and Rich Costello and all these fellows who were behind Bernie Kerik. They're still friends with those pro-Trump, anti-Hunter Biden guys.
Yeah.
But I brought them on the show and carefully extracted little bits of information from them, okay?
Yeah.
That kind of lays out the true story of what happened in the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Okay.
But my involvement goes back to Stormy Daniels, okay?
Okay.
And if you watched recently, there's this indictment now of Trump, and Michael Cohen is testifying against Trump. Anybody who's ever listened to my show, you hear one of the commercials at the beginning of the show is Keith M. Davidson. And Keith M. Davidson was the first attorney for Stormy Daniels.
Okay.
He's the one who negotiated the original deal for Stormy Daniels for $130,000 with Michael Cohen.
Oh.
And he's testified before this grand jury right now today. Keith Davidson is to this day my client and also a sponsor of my show.
And by the way, he has no, I assume, or you wouldn't be doing it, but just for the sake of clarification, he has no problem with you talking about all of this.
No, as a matter of fact, there's a book out called The Fixers, The Bottom Feeders, Crooked Lawyers, Gossip Mongers, and Porn Stars Who Created the 45th President, written by Joe Palazzola and Michael Rothfeld. And it was Mr. Davidson who put me in touch with them and said, hey, I want you to talk to this scrappy PI. It's all about what's going on in this case. So I'm actually a source for that book.
Okay.
And that's the Bible of the story of the Stormy Daniels case.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
according to
Now-
Wikipedia, he's a Beverly Hills attorney, and he was started in the about 10 years ago. One of his things is negotiating over non-disclosure agreements, and he was also involved not only with Stormy Daniels, but with the Playboy playmate Karen McDougal, who also, allegedly was paid hush money by Trump.
Okay. All right.
I'm at the
Well,
news
and
desk.
also, too, in that situation, too, Stormy Daniels' agent, her manager, was Gina Rodriguez, who was also a client of mine, or previously was a client of mine. And for a period of time, she was also my agent, too, as well. And then, of course, Dylan Howard, who was involved in that whole deal, who's a friend of mine. And I've also consulted with AMI, Mr. Pecker. So intimately involved in knowledge of all the situation here.
Okay.
And when Mr. Rich Costello showed up to testify at the grand jury right before the closing of the grand jury, to discredit Michael Cohen, he was standing up there after doing a live press conference, holding up this book, The Fixers, The Bottom Feeders, Crooked Lawyers, Gossip Mongers, and Porn Stars Who Created the 45th President. He's holding it up with the yellow Post-its at the pages that he wanted to share with the grand jury. And coincidentally, I just happened to be playing that repeat at the exact same time. Okay.
No kidding.
So now, I first heard about this whole situation with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal back in around 2015. I was hired to work on a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein, and I was shopping around for an attorney. And that's when I first heard about all this stuff going on behind the scenes with these women and these porn stars coming forward with Playboy magazine and all this kind of stuff. My next, and Rich Costello and all this, believe it or not, connects to the Hunter Biden laptop.
Okay.
Now, how I got involved with the Hunter Biden laptop story. You remember John Benet Ramsey?
Oh, yes.
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
The child that was
Remember that fellow,
murdered.
John Mark Carr?
John Mark Carr. That's a familiar name.
No.
He confessed to the murdering John Benet Ramsey. He was over in Taiwan. He was going through a sex change operation, and they brought him back here. He was facing child pornography charges here in the United States. But for some reason, the local sheriff's department that had his laptop with all this child pornography on it sold his laptop, sold the evidence at a garage sale.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yep.
Jeez.
So this John Mark Carr, he was a weird guy. I always kept my eye on him, and I saw a story one time in the news years and years ago, like around 2013, about how he had this young woman, Samantha Spiegel, 19 years old at the time, had to get a restraining order against him because she had entered into a relationship with him when she had first met him when she was 9 years old, and he was a teacher's aide at her Catholic school in San Francisco. When she saw him on the news about this John Benet Ramsey story, she contacted him, and they entered into a relationship where he actually wanted her to help him, according to Samantha Spiegel. He wanted her to help him kidnap little girls around John Benet Ramsey's age and style and look, and have a little cult of little girls, John Benet Ramsey cult for John Mark Carr, who's a seriously sick guy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, clearly.
Yeah. Everyone involved with him winds up getting a restraining order against him, except for myself so far. I see this story, and I contact Samantha Spiegel, and I bring her on the show. It was very difficult to book her and find her, so when I finally got a hold of her, I says, hey, let's record this right this minute. Okay,
yeah.
I didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
Toward the end of the interview, we're going over the whole stuff, her relationship with Carr and all this, a lot of stuff she's involved with. Toward the end of the interview, she blurts out, and I had a sexual affair with Dr. Keith Abloh. Okay?
Wow.
And he had me in an abusive S&M relationship. He had me get tattoos. I'm saying, whoa, hold on. Dr. Keith Abloh, the Fox News contributor? She goes, yes. And I says, has this ever been reported anywhere else before? She goes, no, I'm telling you for the first time anywhere.
Wow.
So I said, okay, well, let's bleep out his name for now. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? I don't know if this is true or not. I don't want to get in trouble.
Right. Hey.
But after the interview, I get a hold of her, and I says, listen, if this is true, what you're telling me, that you were abused by Dr. Keith Abloh, we have a lawsuit against him. I want you to speak to one of my clients, one of my attorneys. Right away, we knew. She sent me all this material on Abloh, emails, text messages, all this kind of stuff. It was a very seriously abusive relationship.
So,
okay.
So
we knew we had a case.
So she corroborated it pretty quickly that what she was telling you was true.
Oh yeah, I got a ton of material that even Hunter Biden doesn't know about. Okay, I put together a report on Dr. Keith Abloh that was later used to have his license pulled to practice psychology.
Really?
The Board of Psychological Examiners in Massachusetts declared that he was an imminent threat to the public.
Wow. Okay.
And now he was up to some serious stuff. He lost his license. What happened was we were going to sign up Samantha Spiegel for this lawsuit against Abloh and Fox News, by the way, because she met him he was a Fox News contributor.
Yeah.
And she met him because she was a guest on Fox News, and then he called her up. She thought she was going to get therapy, and the first thing out of his mouth is, are you a dirty little whore?
Oh,
that's the first thing this guy says to this young lady who's in a traumatic situation to begin with.
Yeah. You know, by the way, just as a side note, it's hard to believe that anyone at Fox would behave that way. I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? And all the way from Roger Ailes all the way down.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Abloh at one point, just to give you an idea how serious these charges are, he had gotten into an argument with her over the phone. She was in San Francisco. He was in Massachusetts. He had her committed over the phone, and they picked her up in San Francisco, put her in a mental institution. And then when she got out, they reconnected and reestablished their S&M BDSM relationship, okay?
Wow.
The lawsuit fell apart, okay, or at least my involvement in the lawsuit fell apart to a certain degree. My client couldn't take it because he was in the middle of this whole Stormy Daniels thing, okay, Keith, and he couldn't take the case, who I wanted to take the case. It wanted someone with other attorneys. Two defendants in that case did prevail and did receive damages from Dr. Keith Abloh. Now, what happens later on, the reason why this is important to the Hunter Biden laptop story is, and a lot of people don't know this, but Hunter Biden, after Keith Abloh was disgraced, lost his license, Hunter Biden went to live with Dr. Keith Abloh in Massachusetts for 3 months.
Really?
Yep.
Now, how does that happen? Were they friends somehow? How does that come about?
That's a good question. Were they friends? One story is he went there to get intensive therapy for all his problems with addiction and sexual addiction and all this kind of stuff that this guy's up to. But, what came out in the Board of Psychological Examiners is that Keith Abloh was up to all that same exact stuff, okay? But for whatever reason, they were living together for 3 months. And for whatever reason, Hunter Biden cuts his visit there short, and when he leaves behind a laptop, a diary, and some other cell phone, some other material at that house.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I start hearing this story, because I'm from New York. I know all these guys.
Yeah.
I start hearing the story that there was a book launch party. A fellow named Mr. Bradley Birkenfeld wrote a book called Lucifer's Banker. And this was about Swiss banking accounts and corruption and all these people. He mentions the Bidens quite a bit. He has a beef with the Bidens. He doesn't like them. He's a Republican. And has all this information about this. He actually got a reward. I think it was $125 million from the IRS.
$104 million.
Whistleblowing on people that were misusing the Swiss banking system. Okay?
Okay.
He's got this book launch party in New York City. Who attends the book launch party? Bernie Kerik, Rudy Giuliani, Mr. Rich Costello. Remember Rich Costello? I told you about him, how he was in front of the grand jury with the book, The Fixers.
Yep.
And he's also mentioned in that indictment of Trump as a part of a witness tampering scheme. Because he's very close to Giuliani, and they were trying to get Michael Cohen to hire him as his attorney, to have a guy in there, keeping an eye on things.
Sure.
And he was relaying messages from the White House saying, you have friends in high places, don't worry. He was at this party, too. Rich Costello, Rudy Giuliani, Bernie Kerik, John Kiriakou, the CIA whistleblower, okay, and Bradley Birkenfeld, and also there is Dr. Keith Ablow's brother, who shows up at this meeting and says, hey, we've got this laptop with all this information. Dr. Keith Abloh would like to monetize this laptop. And I have these words coming out of Brad Birkenfeld's mouth on tape, on my show.
Wow.
So the guys I went and found all these guys at the meeting and interviewed them about their books or different stories just to get these one lines out of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to get to this story, man, okay? All right.
Wow.
Ablow's brother says, we want between $2 and $3 million for this laptop, okay? That's got to tell you, now, if he came up with this figure, he knows what's on this laptop. I got to tell you that there's some serious stuff on this laptop, right?
But let me just ask you, Ed. So when he's saying this, though, when he's saying this is how much money we want for this laptop, how does anyone he's saying this to know that what's on the laptop is actually worth anything? Like, how was that part presented? Because if you're going to try to sell this to somebody, you've got to make them believe that there is something, and you say that there was something significant on it apparently. But how does he pitch it when he's pitching, hey, you want to buy this laptop, I'll give it to you for $2 or $3 million, it's pretty valuable.
Right. Well, in deals like that, okay, I'm working on one right now, okay? some opposition research, political candidate opposition research.
Okay.
And what you'll do is you'll have money in escrow. You send people over there to authenticate the information, and then you release the money. Okay. That's how that stuff goes. And I'm friends too with Kevin Blatt, the celebrity sex tape broker. I've had him on the show several times. I'm in these circles. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's not a main issue. Just to verify what's on the laptop later on. As a matter of fact, I had another guest on the show, Patrick Berge, who was all involved with all that January 6th stuff.
Yeah.
And he was actually hired at one point to go to Rudy Giuliani's apartment and authenticate information that was on the laptop. And wouldn't you know it, 3 days later, after he leaves, that's when the FBI comes and raids Rudy's house, Rudy's apartment. Remember that? And took all his electronics, phones, and all this kind of... Remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
Well, they took everything but the Hunter Biden laptop.
Wait, so that's where it was? That's where it ended up?
That's where one of them... There's copies of them all over the place.
Okay.
But get this, the one that's at Keith Ablow's house, and that's the one that's important, because that's the one that I have all the information from all these people at the book signing party.
Yeah.
Bo Dietl, New York City private investigator. I've known him since the 80s. Okay, we're no longer friends now because we have different opinions on police shooting unarmed guys. Okay?
Yeah.
We don't quite agree on unarmed people getting shot dead by cops.
Yeah.
We have a difference of opinion on that matter. But Bo Dietl, who's friends with all these guys, Carrick and Rudy, and Birkenfeld, go down to Ablow's house to negotiate the sale of this laptop. And the laptop's sitting over there in Ablow's safe. So negotiations break down on this laptop. They can't come to an agreement. So they leave empty-handed. But wouldn't you know it, I think it's 3 days later again. In 3 days, like the tomb rolls open every 3 days with this story. 3 days later, who comes knocking at the door? The Drug Enforcement Administration.
Really?
And they come in there, Dr. Keith Ablow, and it's my opinion, too, by the way, that they never could have got this warrant to go in there and go into Dr. Keith Ablow's house if he had not first lost his license, okay?
Yeah.
To practice psychiatry. But the DEA shows up, seizes the laptop, they go to another drugstore with Ablow's writing prescriptions in the names of his employees, and they're splitting half the prescriptions back with him. He's getting prescriptions for ketamine. He got these two young women, the same kind of relationship he had with my client, Miss Spiegel, and he had them move to Massachusetts. He's dosing them with ketamine. This all came out when in his license revoking, and his other litigation with him.
Yeah.
But the DEA comes there and they seize this laptop, right? And all this stuff.
Wow.
And, of course, Hunter Biden later on, he's able to get his attorneys to recover that laptop, but not until it appears that the information on that laptop was duplicated and copied and turned back over to Rudy and his guys, who now got it for free.
Oh,
and I even said to Birkenfeld, because he's saying, well, I don't know how this happened. Maybe they had my phones tapped. I says, well, Mr. Birkenfeld, if there's someone in this whole scenario who could possibly get a judge to sign a warrant for the DEA to go in there with a search warrant and seize this laptop, couldn't someone like Rudy Giuliani do that?
Oh.
And he goes, oh, no, I don't think that happened. I couldn't even control myself. I burst out laughing.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
If you listen to these recordings. Okay. So it's Birkenfeld's theory. They took that laptop, the material on that laptop, and they sent it over to that fellow over there, the computer repair guy.
Okay.
John Mac Isaacs, who, by the way, has several different variations of his name, too. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
And that supposedly Hunter Biden dropped off some water-damaged equipment there, and I know how to do computer recovery. You don't go looking and look at pictures in someone's laptop when you're recovering their data. You don't look at it.
Right.
Unless you're bored and you got nothing to do with your life.
Right.
And you'd be spending 12 hours a day doing that.
Although might you, if it's a high profile, if you know it's a high profile figure who either dropped off the laptop or, might you look if you think there might be something worth looking at?
Oh yeah, for me, I'm a private investigator.
Right.
I'm looking for stuff.
Right.
But a computer repair guy, supposedly he didn't even know who Hunter Biden was when he dropped it off.
Oh, okay.
That's later on.
Yeah.
But the thing is, who does in the official story? Remember we talked about this. What's the official story? Then what really happened? In the official story, John Mac Isaacs says that I contacted the police and the FBI, and no one did a damn thing. So I contacted who? Rich Costello, Rudy's pal, the guy who was going to go in there, put in the fix for Michael Cohen, and also too at this very same book launch party in New York. I think it was in Washington D.C., not New York City. I'm mistaken. Rich Costello, according to John Kirkawa, I know I'm mispronouncing his name. I apologize. I've had John on the show twice. I had him on around 2013, and then when I heard about his involvement in this whole laptop story, and I had him come back just for that one question, and he was laughing too when he heard that I knew the whole story.
Yeah.
John Kirkawa was a CIA whistleblower, and he lost his CIA pension. And they told him he talked to a lobbyist who was handling pardons for Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump was doling out presidential pardons.
Yeah.
That would enable, if Kirkawa was able to get his pardon, then he would receive his CIA pension, which was worth a lot of money to him.
Ah.
And the way he describes it, he brought up, well, hey, what about my pardon for this pension? And Rudy jumps up and says, I got to go hit the can. Okay. As a matter of fact, he tells the story first. He says, you know what? Let's have lunch instead. Let's have a lunch meeting instead, because by 2:00, Rudy really enjoys scotch, and after 2:00, not much business gets done.
I've heard that.
This is old John Kirkawa out of his own mouth. I have it, I played it on the show.
Yeah.
So he says, well, what about this pardon? Rudy takes off to the bathroom like Michael Corleone,
Yeah.
And Rich Costello says, when nobody talks of business in front of Rudy, you talk to me. He goes, if you want the pardon, it's $2 million, right? Now I said to Kirkawa, I said, boy, that's interesting, $2 million, because that's the same amount that was being bandied about the Hunter Biden laptop at that same meeting, at the same conversations. That was $2 million too. So I kind of joked to Mr. Kirkawa. I says, well, did they tell you maybe, because, Kirkawa's a CIA operative, man. He's a serious guy.
Yeah.
I says, did they kind of tell you, hey, if you go get this laptop for us, we'll give you a pardon because it's worth $2 million? And even he burst out laughing at that one, too.
Wow.
So this cast of characters, man, okay, and I've been working on this for quite some time, because like I said, I have information straight from the horse's mouth in all these characters involved in this firsthand. Berge, firsthand direct involvement. They had him there, Patrick Berge, they had him at Giuliani's house. At one point, he admitted that it wasn't just to authenticate the laptop. He also admitted there was no child porn on there, but to authenticate the laptop. But they also wanted him to break into passwords and encrypted pages and bank accounts and stuff like that to see more information.
Yeah.
Which is why all the Hunter Biden laptop pictures and images and stuff didn't all come out at once. It came out little by little by little by little.
Oh, okay.
Some stuff coming out months later. Just recently, Lev Parnas.
Ah, yes, I remember Lev Parnas.
Partner with Giuliani, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lev Parnas begged the January 6th committee and all these different hearings and committees to testify about what he knows about the Hunter Biden laptop. He was just a guest on Michael Cohen's show. And I contacted Mr. Lev Parnas. He's agreed to come on my show. When I told him all the information I got, Now, his version of events is very, very interesting. Lev Parnas is the fellow who arranged the very perfect phone call between President Trump and Zelensky.
Yes,
where he said, hey, dig up dirt on Hunter Biden, and then I'll release this money to you.
By the way, just a side note, John Hopwood and I once, we did a reenactment using the transcript of that on the show. I played Trump and John played Zelensky, and it's...
yes, I did.
I dare say it's quite funny, if we do say so ourselves. But that's why John reacted when you mentioned that. But yes.
You got to send it to me. You got to send it
I will, absolutely.
I was listening to you guys before I started. You guys are really funny together.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So Lev Parnas arranged that phone call, and this was an off-the-cuff. They were having dinner, man. They were all sitting around drinking, and they came, let's call Zelensky. This is like an off-the-cuff phone call that happened. So Lev Parnas revealed some very interesting stuff because he's no friend of Rudy Giuliani's anymore. Okay? And he tells us that the way that Hunter Biden got that job in Ukraine with the energy company Burisma,
Yeah.
do you know how he got that job?
How? I'm dying to know.
Rudy Giuliani's agent, who used to book Rudy Giuliani for speeches over there in Ukraine, is the one that got him that job over Burisma.
Oh.
And then what Lev Parnas says, what would happen is...
Small world.
He goes, this guy Biden was a mess. By the way, this is all back in 2019, before anybody heard of any laptops.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? He says, this kid Biden was a mess. He was on drugs. He was a pervert. He's doing all this stuff. And what they would do is the Russian FSB would take him and tell him, hey, man, we got girls for you over at Kazakhstan, and we got all the drugs you want. We'll fly you over there. And when he would go over there with these girls and these drugs, they'd be taping him without him knowing it. And they put all this stuff on what? A laptop.
Oh.
Can I just point out something?
Yeah.
There are places in the former Soviet Union, one of them being Tbilisi, Georgia. You know, they'll have like an international film festival. And I asked a friend who military, you know, I know from my time in military intelligence, well, what the hell is this big movie star doing there? He says, because Tbilisi is a wide open city where all the drugs and any type of girls available. So that's why this, you know, movie star is showing up in this godforsaken place.
I see.
So when you're mentioning Kazakhstan and that, yeah.
That makes sense.
You know, why are people showing up in these hellholes? Because there's money under the table, and there's just
we got drugs and girls, baby. Come on,
any age, whatever, what you want, boys, girls, anything.
Wow, no,
but
well, that makes sense.
Yeah, stuff
because
like
anything
that
goes. Yeah,
is one of the lifeblood of politics. Lyndon Johnson became the most powerful head of the Senate by supplying senators with women and money.
Yep.
And then essentially blackmailing them for their votes.
Yeah. All right.
That's politics.
Oh, and speaking of blackmail, too, by the way, very interesting, Jared Kushner, how his father got arrested because he wanted to donate all that money to Democrats. He was creating all these phony companies and partnerships and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then he blackmailed his brother-in-law by hooking him up with these hookers and then videotaping it and blackmailing him not to testify against them. Those are Russian teen hookers.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. But real quick, because I see we're almost out of time, Lev Parnas was on the plane going to Vienna. Who's on the plane with him? Sean Hannity. And who was supposed to be on the plane with him was Rudy Giuliani. An hour before the flight takes off, Rudy Giuliani calls up and says, you know what, I can't make the flight. And the purpose of that trip was Rudy Giuliani was going to go there and pick up the laptop, to pick up the hardware or the contraband, whatever they were calling it.
Yeah.
And Lev Parnas was arrested on that plane on the strip on the airport.
Okay. Wow. Wasn't there somebody else too? Didn't Lev Parnas have a partner who was involved in all this too, whose name escapes me?
His name escapes me as well because he's not doing these interviews and talking like Lev Parnas is.
Gotcha.
Lev Parnas, his case is over. He's convicted. He's doing house arrest now. He's serving his time in his home with a tether.
Yeah. So what's so that's how Giuliani gets the laptop? Wait,
it seems like the laptop was a compilation of a lot of different of this FSB blackmail constructed by the Russians.
The laptop, it's the real information that was gathered, and then it's put on a laptop.
Okay.
Because the laptop story doesn't really make much sense, but the stuff on it, is real.
Okay. And
but I think they needed a physical laptop that at one time did actually belong to what's his name?
To Biden, right?
Right, Biden, and then they wanted that from. Apple.
This is dirty. These are dirty tricks. They used to do it in other ways. Back. And Harry Truman, the president of the United States, who had been a U.S. senator in that, until the day he died, he was born 1884. He would never be in a room with a woman unless somebody was there or the door was open.
Really?
Because of the Badger game.
Okay.
You know, a woman is in the room with you, and then the Badger game is, oh, he tried to rape me, or they're a prostitute.
Sure,
but
sure.
They mentioned that because he lived into the 70s, and he would not be in a room alone with a woman.
Right.
Unless the door was open or somebody was there.
You know, I heard the same thing about Bill Clinton, but he would never be in a room with a woman if the door was open.
Right.
I have some stories about Bill Clinton because we're here in the New Hampshire primary.
Yeah. So what's the status of all this now with the laptop? Because I know that it seems like
Hunter's suing.
It gets spoken about a lot less, right? Because supposedly there's this ongoing Department of Justice investigation into Hunter Biden, which hasn't. Fox News has already kind of shrugged their shoulders and given up on it, right? So what's the status of this now?
The biggest problem with the laptop being used as any kind of evidence against the clear crimes of the Biden family. Okay, I'm not excusing these people whatsoever. Is the chain of custody of this information on this laptop.
Exactly.
It's just totally screwed, blued, and tattooed, man. It's gone forever.
Yeah.
There's no hope of using any of that in court.
Okay, so because it's that makes sense. So it's been compromised. So whatever's on that though. Okay, so I guess it's irrelevant if you can't really do anything with it.
It's irrelevant in a legal sense.
In a legal sense, yeah. How I was wondering too, Ed. So what is the legality of in terms of the chain of custody? So when Keith Abloh, going back to when he first tried to sell the laptop that Hunter Biden had left at his house, which still blows my mind. Can you, is what he was doing even legal? Like if somebody leaves something at your house and they don't bother to come back for it because, I don't know, maybe they're in Kazakhstan with drugs and women, or wherever he ended up. Is it legal? It can't be legal, right? For Keith Abloh to actually sell this, is it?
Well, believe it or not, there's all kinds of gray areas with missing property. Has it been reported stolen? What's the statute of limitations? There's also too, it's not like Abloh was afraid of committing crimes. The guy was committing crimes on a daily basis. And these other characters, man, by the way, Bernie Kerik, who was also at this meeting. I don't know if you're familiar with this whole Lawrence Ray story with the Sarah Lawrence co-eds and stuff like that.
No, all I really remember about Bernie Kerik, I know he was the police commissioner in New York, and then he wanted to Giuliani, I think, he was nominated right by the Bush administration for a high-profile position,
Homeland Security.
Yes, but then it turned out, but then he ended up in prison instead, basically.
Right, and his best man at his wedding was a fellow named Lawrence Ray, who had a CIA background, and also too, when he was Bernie Kerik's best friend and best man at his wedding. And paid for the wedding, too, as a matter of fact, too, and paid for some furniture for him. He was pimping out his girlfriend, okay? And everyone knew this guy was pimping. He was married, he had a girlfriend, and he would pimp out the girlfriend. Years later, he goes down, and his daughter's a student at Sarah Lawrence. He moves into the dorm with her, starts dating one of her roommates at the dorm, and starts pimping her out for $8,000 a day. He's in prison today. I had a 2-hour phone call with this guy, okay, Lawrence Ray. They did a documentary, too, about him, Stolen Innocence on Netflix. You could find him.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, man, he's pimping out this girl for $8,000 a day. She's not a beautiful girl. He's doing it for some stupid little website. He wasn't doing this like a Craigslist ad or an escort service website. He knew the people, the clients that were... Yeah, he knew these people. So
a high-end call girl.
Imagine the blackmail dirt this guy has.
Is it ever, Ed, I'm curious too, is it ever difficult for you doing these interviews? Do you ever find yourself talking to somebody where, you kind of have to force yourself to do it because there's somebody like the individual you were just discussing, somebody who's just so kind of disgusting that you're like, you want to hear what they have to say, but at the same time, it's like you feel kind of gross.
No, listen, at 19, 20 years old, I would go into Rikers Island and talk to the most horrible people we ever met in our life.
Yeah.
So I'm immune to that. But listeners will say to me, "Hey Ed, how could you have that guest on your show and you're being polite and friendly? You're joking with him."
Yeah.
Well, because that's how you get the information out of these people, you know?
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'm going to start fighting with the guy? He's going to hang up on me. That's how you get, you have a conversation, you take their statement, and you get the gold.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. No, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. And by the way, so in terms of the laptop, do you think there's anything on there that is, I don't know if you want to answer this or not, or if you want to speculate on it or not, but I'll throw it out there. I mean, is there anything there that you think is directly represents a danger to the president himself?
Well, I think there's a galore information out there that Biden was involved in all this corruption. Hunter Biden was partners with John Kerry's son when Biden was vice president, and their whole operation was traveling around the world with their hands out with paper bags saying, "Put money in this bag, please." Okay, that was their whole business.
Yes.
They were getting paid off galore. Now this is wide open. Everybody knows this now. But Joe Biden has such chutzpah. Okay, that who does he appoint? He appoints John Kerry to his cabinet. I forget what role it is, some nonsense role. You never see him doing anything.
Climate czar, basically, I think.
Yeah, right. He doesn't distance himself from these criminals, man. He goes right back into bed with them. They're untouchable, these characters. The guy's showering with his daughter. His own son says, "I can't be
She was
seen
only
I can't be in
11.
the same room with my niece because I'm naked and I'm smoking crack." This is but how these people are not under the prison is beyond me.
So like for example, when you hear, because Hunter apparently he's making deals and he refers to the big guy, you think that's his dad?
Well, I don't know anything specific more than anybody else, but who else could it be?
Right. Wow.
And his father
Craig,
does show up at
who's the big guy?
Right.
His father does show up at one of the meetings. Information that was suppressed during the election.
There you go. Boy, who do you end up who do you end up supporting politically with all these on either side of the aisle?
That's so obvious.
You got all these terrible people.
Vermin Supreme.
There you go, Vermin Supreme. Do you like Vermin Supreme? You must know.
You probably know something about
him. I've never heard of who that is.
He's the guy who wears the boot on his head. No, but you were a Bernie guy, right?
Yeah, I'm not a capitalist, so both the Democrats and the Republicans are on the same side. I am a real socialist. I did support Bernie because he says all the right things, and my plan with Bernie was we organize the people the Bernie supporters, the volunteers. They're not afraid of the word socialism. We organize them in the future, okay? Because Bernie's, whatever, it's just not going to happen. And that was very, very successful in Nevada, okay? And people I had on my show 10 years ago were running Nevada 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were very successful in Nevada, organizing those people.
Yeah, I remember talking with you about that before, and you mentioning that. And do you have any? If you got a couple extra minutes, Ed, I'm curious if you have any thoughts or predictions on Trump in terms of he's a lot of these people and you've seen a lot of this up close in terms of his legal woes these days.
Yeah, I predicted during the primary 2015 that Trump would wind up in prison. Okay, I never dreamed that his first indictment would be a case that I'm very familiar with, where I know all these,
right.
know all these guys, where I got their home phone numbers. I never dreamed that. Okay.
Yeah.
This indictment in New York is a no-brainer, man. Okay, Michael Cohen has already been convicted for that. Okay,
right.
How can you convict Cohen and not convict the guy who he was working for? Just beyond belief. This Georgia stuff, man, it looks pretty good too, man. It looks like he can get a conviction down there too. And then this rape trial in Manhattan doesn't look good either. It's a defamation case, but it's really a rape trial.
That's Karen.
That doesn't look good either.
That's McDougal, right?
And this
Karen
$250 million.
I'm sorry. That's Karen McDougal, right?
No. Campbell, I think her name is the one that Joe Tacopina is defending.
Oh, okay. It's hard to keep it all straight. There's so much.
You can't keep track of all this stuff. It's impossible.
Yeah. And then what about the secret documents case, which of course is federal? I think is probably.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. The attorneys in that case have already been disciplined. I don't see him getting out of that one either.
Yeah.
But the other one too is this $250 million lawsuit with the Attorney General in New York City. Alan Weisselberg is sitting in prison right now on similar. He's a defendant in that lawsuit too as well. And he just recently fired his Trump-provided attorneys and has hired his own attorneys loyal to him. Like, remember I described before the Rich Costello situation where they try to get their loyal attorney.
Well, you still there, Ed?
Oh, Skype goes out.
Pay for his own.
There we go.
Oh, Ed, you're cutting in and out.
You lost me?
Oh, Ed, we lost you there for about 10 seconds.
Yeah, Weisselberg is a defendant in that $250 million lawsuit. I believe he's going to settle and he's going to testify against Trump when he gets out of prison.
Really? Okay, that would be fascinating to see that.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Trump was providing lawyers for him. He just fired them. He hired his own attorney, which is a clear sign you flip.
I'll tell you what, though, it's remarkable the way that Trump has managed to, he's built his brand in a way where it's like the more legal trouble that he has, the better it is for him because he's able to raise lots of money. And I think I don't know if you have any predictions personally. I think he'll be the nominee. And then I think he'll lose in the general election, but I do think he'll be the nominee. It seems like the more trouble he has because he's very good at doing this inclusive thing. He presents it as it's not me they're after, it's us they're after. And then people buy into that. You've got that third of the Republican Party that's ride or die for Trump, no matter what.
Yeah, I think he just raised like $34 million or something crazy like that.
Oh yeah, just crazy numbers. Yeah.
But if you look at him, he looks exhausted. He doesn't have the same. Even me, I'm a huge. I love the whole Trump circus. I used to go to all the rallies, man. I sit in the press section. I love that stuff, man.
Yeah.
All crazy coming out every week. It just, I think the circus has left town. As far as Trump goes,
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Well, Ed, you've been very generous with your time today. I appreciate it. Oh, was there anything else? By the way, I just want to make sure that we didn't leave out anything. Was there anything else regarding the Biden laptop story specifically that we didn't mention that you wanted to make sure to include?
Well, the only last little tidbit I could hit you with here is. Both Bernie Kerik and Rudy Giuliani were on Twitter alluding that that there was child porn on the laptop. So I wrote a little message to Rudy and I said, and I tagged Kerik, and I said, well, listen, if you guys, if you're spreading this laptop material around and there's child pornography on it, then you guys are guilty of distributing child pornography.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not even 2 hours later, Rudy announces that they turned over the laptop to the state police, and he blocked me. Okay.
Wow. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Very good. Well, Ed, thank you so much, my friend. This has been wonderful. And please, before you go, give your show a big plug. Let people know where they can find it. And like I said, as we mentioned, too, at the top of our discussion today, for those just joining us, we've been talking with Ed Opperman, host of the Opperman Report. And I know Jenny was on your show recently for an interview, and we look forward to hearing that. But please let everyone know where to get your show and anything about, social media, websites we should know about, and so forth.
Yeah, Opperman Report is Instagram, it's Twitter. Opperman Report's the name of the show. OppermanReport.com is the website. Shows you where all the AM/FM stations were on, if you're in Florida or Nevada or California. And then if you just Google Opperman Report, you'll find the show. It's on all the podcast catchers. But the best way is you go to Spreaker.com, and you can sign up for free with your Facebook. And I do a live show Friday nights there. There's a chat room. You get an email notification when there's new content. And also to Opperman Report Patreon. All the shows you can find there ad-free. I put up exclusive stuff there, too. But also, too, great free stuff, too. Like, I've had the Proud Boys Manifesto. I've had that thing for 5 years. And the copy I have is a better copy that came out in court, okay? It's a better, clearer copy, okay? The 24-page letter where Jeffrey Epstein's attorney, Jerry Lefcourt, claims that Jeffrey Epstein founded the Clinton Foundation. I've had that thing for since 2013, okay, before anybody. And when Epstein got arrested and you started seeing that thing everywhere, because they bought it from my website, okay?
Oh, no kidding.
A lot of exclusive stuff you can't find anywhere else. And for free that I put up. All the Trump indictment paperwork, I put all that stuff up for free.
Oh, that's fantastic. Very good. Very good. Well, Ed, thank you again so much. And let's not let years and years go by before we do this, especially in the times that we live in. I'd love to have you back soon. And thank you so much, my friend. This has been great talking with you today.
No, Matt, thank you so much. You made me feel very welcome, and I really appreciate it. And your friend there, John, it is?
Sean, I'd like to get you on my show. I have a public access TV show.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, I'd love it. Sure, John.
I'll send you a message.
You've been a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get you guys connected. All right, Ed Opperman, thank you so much, my friend. Have a great day.
Good night, guys.
All right, good night. Bye-bye. All right, that was that was great. That was Ed Opperman from the Opperman Report. And yeah, it's been a long time since we've had him on, and we do have to do that more often. We also have to take a break. We're well past the top of the hour, and I have a song lined up here that is from an artist that John is not particularly fond of, but it is the perfect song to play in honor of the guest that we just had on. Can you guess what it is, John?
Hall & Oates?
Yes.
Which one?
You know which one. What song would I play?
Out of Touch?
No, what song would I play after we have on a private investigator like Ed Opperman?
You know how I abhor Hall & Oates.
Oh, you'll recognize it when you hear it. So
I've taken too many benzos.
We're going to take a break. We're going to play a little song. We're going to show some love to our amazing sponsors, and then we'll be back. Are you sticking around?
Of course I am.
Excellent. John Hopwood is here, and plenty more to come. Don't go away.
Head over love.
come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, free dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
WMNH, rip the knob off.
Welcome back, everybody. We are well into hour number 2, a numero dos of Matt Connerton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Tuesday, April 17, 2023. I'm not alone, and we have time. I will give him his official introduction. John Hopwood is here at the news desk.
Hello, Matt.
And what a great conversation we had with Ed Opperman, and big hit in the Facebook live chat, too. I saw Miriam Banish, Jeff Nyan talking about how much they enjoyed that conversation, some other people. So we'll definitely have to do that more often.
I'm still thinking about the presidential showering.
Well, Anyway,
I know you're covered by the FCC.
Well, we don't. Yes, we don't want to. We don't need to think about that. But
why? If it was Trump, we'd talk about it.
No, I would not talk about that.
We did on public TV.
Well, not on the radio program during Afternoon Drive.
That's right.
We shan't.
The FCC are such old fuddy-duddies.
We shan't get into that, but. We can get into other things if you'd like to give us a call today on the show, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. The studio line is open. You can also text us at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connerton. You can email me, Matt, at mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat, and we'll say hello to everybody there in a moment. Very busy chat room today. And, of course, the best thing, though, is to give us a call at 603-250-6007 so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones. Let's go ahead and say hello to everybody in the chat. Let's see, JFed, Jason Federson from Vermont joins us and says, good afternoon, everyone. JFed asks, does Ed perform anything that would be good for a birthday party? I don't believe he's a musician as far as I know. Joe Friday, we mentioned earlier, is in the chat room. Isaac Banks from the Greensboro, North Carolina contingent joins us. Joe Friday says, could you hook up with the link for Jenny's petition? I think yes. I think Jenny did share that in the Facebook live chat. Yes, let's get some more signatures on that. Absolutely. JFed says, does Ed work surveillance for a suspected cheating spouse? Oh my goodness, such a loaded question. Let's see. Joe Friday says, I did ask about OJ. Ask Ed about OJ. Joe Friday says, OJ is a piece of S unless you mix him with champagne. I see what you did there. Yes. And JFed points out, and the glove did not fit. Crystal joins us from the great state of Illinois. Hello, Crystal. Isaac Banks says, good afternoon, hashtag Janet Gunn. How are you doing? I seen you before of the TV show Silk Stockings. Joe Friday says, rule number 1, don't commit a crime and go to jail. And Joe Friday knows, obviously, with a name like Joe Friday, about law enforcement.
No, the point is not to go to jail.
Well, yes.
You can commit the crime.
Well,
I
have
a good mouthpiece.
I disagree. Don't commit the crime if you can't do the time. That's
and look what happened to Beretta.
That's what. Well, that's
now dead.
That's a good. That's a good point. Let's see. Isaac Banks says, hi, hashtag Sharon Stone, and Michael Broadhurst has a crush on you.
What's the story about?
And he's seen your films.
Sharon Stone.
I don't know, but apparently Isaac Banks is saying hello
Another
to
hater?
her. No, Sharon Stone is...
Is it the real Sharon Stone, the one that was married to...
There's only one Sharon Stone.
The executive editor of The Examiner.
Sharon Stone, of course, from the film... what the hell's the name of the movie now?
It wasn't Blazing Saddles.
The one with that famous scene. The one with Michael Douglas. I'm blanking on the name of the film.
She was in The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, she's been in...
With Gene Hackman. That's actually a good movie.
Let's see.
Something... it was by Joe Esterhaus, who wrote
yes.
the same screenplay and got $3 million for it like 5 times.
Basic Instinct.
A hero.
Scott Robinson got it. Basic Instinct. Thank you, Scott.
Yes, and all nudity in a Hollywood film is negotiated with and agreed on, and the actress or actor has to sign off. So her story that they tricked her is a bunch of malarkey.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Blanchard says, I think he was, I don't want to get into that subject.
No, we don't.
Tom.
This is family radio.
Well, not what you were referring to, but what Tom was referring to.
Ooh,
naughty. I think. Here's somebody new in the chat room, N.O. Nole? Says,
that's a NSA troll that heard about us.
Oh.
And now it's here.
What about Kathleen Sullivan, the author of the book Unshackled? I'm not familiar with that. Are you?
Unshackled means she had to have been shackled at one point.
That's an excellent
Did she
point.
Like to be shackled?
Oh.
Does she prefer being unshackled?
It's probably all covered in the book.
Is unshackled just one of those big puffs of smoke you blow up your readers' behinds, their broad backside of the public, just to, let them enjoy the fact that you really did enjoy being shackled? I have no idea what he's talking about, Matt.
I don't either, but your questions have made me curious.
You said fill in the time.
That's right. No, I meant earlier when I was trying to get on Skype.
I only like to talk when you're talking.
I've noticed that. Here's a new name in the chat, too. William Slamcar joins us. Hello, William. And we have a call. We'll see who's.
Is it from an AI chatbot?
It could be. I hope so. I enjoy them. Hi, welcome to Matt Connerton Unleashed. Who's this?
It's Ridley.
Oh, Dave Ridley.
good
How are
God.
you?
We're expecting a call from a chatbot, Dave. So make it brief.
How do you know that Dave Ridley is not a chatbot?
Is he GP4?
That's
the new stuff.
Are you GP4, Dave Ridley, or are you
GP3?
or are you a sentient human?
You mean GPT-4?
GPT-4?
GPT-4.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with it all.
I am not, but I look forward to meeting her.
Well, you tune into my show next. Is it next tomorrow or is it next week?
Well, tomorrow would be Wednesday.
So that's tomorrow.
Yes.
Not next week. Marion Banish is going to be on, who is a GPT 3.5.
Ah, I see.
With advanced 3D graphics.
Oh, very exciting.
Although our station is so primitive up there. The TV is the old 480. You just don't see this full splendor of her.
Right.
Broadcast.
Right. What's on your mind, Dave?
Well, this might be a good topic to discuss while John is on the show, because I think it would be a topic after John's heart as well as mine. But you guys been paying much attention to the Taiwan news lately?
Not Taiwan news specifically. I mean, in a broader sense, of course, and they're always, in an uncomfortable position and under threat of. Xi Jinping has said that, of course, they will be taking back control of Taiwan at some point. But it sounds like you might be speaking about something more specific.
Yeah, and props to you for at least saying his name right. Everyone else calls him G.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that. Yes.
So I had an epiphany, a few days ago. I've always looked at the Taiwan situation, in over the last 5 years, kind of looked at it as unsolvable. But I had an idea a few days ago, and since hardly anyone seems to be actually proposing solutions to this problem, it's probably a good idea to get it out there. So my idea was Taiwan, as China has become stronger, the Taiwanese position has become very precarious, and it's going to get more precarious until at some point the Chinese will move, because it's going to be impossible for them to lose. So, that's likely unless something really unexpected happens. And so if that happens, people need to understand that could mean the end of civilization, right? So the scenario is China makes their move for Taiwan, the United States intervenes, sends its aircraft carriers, probably loses them, or about half of them.
Or all.
And China mainland is heavily bombed. Nuclear options go on the table quickly in a scenario like this when you're losing, half your Navy in 2 days.
Yes.
That again, this is the scenario that people think will happen. Of course, the Chinese Navy could prove incompetent, and paper tiger. You never know. But I don't think they're a paper tiger. So, on the other hand, Taiwan, you can't just abandon them. They haven't done anything wrong, really, other than gun control. They've severely restricted their people from defending themselves. But Taiwan is a fairly benign country, and there's a history of just abandoning countries, and that doesn't work well either. Right. So it seems unsolvable at first glance. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I follow you.
The Chinese government, they need that territory in order to be able to expand further, or at least they feel like it's holding them back. It's like, a thorn in their side. It's a national humiliation that it's still under nationalist control, under basically sort of, as they see it, under Western control. And so they have this severe passion for taking it back. So anyway, my thinking was if we were in agreement that Taiwan is basically joined at the hip with the United States somehow, and it's part of our civilization, and their self-determination is a hill worth dying on, and they're super important to us, then I guess we should probably look at them the same way that France looked, or maybe the same way that Switzerland looked at its plains territories in World War II. So they had certain territories that were undefendable in Switzerland. They knew the Nazis were going to come with tanks if they invaded. There was just no way to defend these territories.
Right.
So their plan was to withdraw into the mountains, basically, and fight from a more defensible position.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I'm sorry. So it may be, and so of course they would have been happy to, any of their people that wanted to leave the plains and go to the mountains would have been very welcome in the mountains. I think, especially if they could feed themselves.
Since Switzerland is mostly mountains.
Yeah, kind of.
No, it's not kind of. It's mostly mountains. That's one of the reasons it's been able to be neutral for 700 years.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to quibble about that, but
it's true.
Go ahead, Dave.
Anyway, so instead of mounting a forward defense, the Swiss were probably going to withdraw into the mountains. So it may be that the thing to do here is some kind of a planned strategic withdrawal where Taiwanese are allowed, all of them who want to are allowed to come to the United States or other allied nations,
to the
and
New Hampshire.
we start withdrawing from this untenable forward position. I guess that's the only thing I can think of.
What makes you think a Taiwanese thinks of themselves as an American? Because I have a friend, a very close friend, we were at college from freshman year on. I was just talking to him today. I'm going to see him. She does not, she resents the fact that she believes that the United States is using Taiwan as a cat's paw against China. To say that China is part of the United States, that's not the experience I have.
Taiwan.
With China. Yeah, Taiwan, Taipei, whatever, Formosa. It's gone by many names. That's not my experience. I lived in California where there's a large Chinese population.
So John is skeptical of your idea, Dave. I'm not sure.
No, it's not skeptical necessarily, but it's just that they think of themselves.
I may be misspeaking or overstating the case. Yeah,
but
I understand. Obviously, the culture is different.
What you're saying.
It's a very Mandarin culture, and it's completely Chinese. It's the real Chinese culture, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, there's an indigenous
Eastern,
people
Western.
there, but those were the nationalist Chinese. But they're Han Chinese mostly.
Yeah, but there's this. If that's the case, and they're really so separate, then there's no need for any Americans to go to war for them. But right now, that's what the plan is for Americans to basically sink, get all their aircraft carriers sunk. Basically, that's a lot of their aircraft carriers sunk. Basically, that's the American plan right now for Taiwan. So there must
makes sense, because if you know about Hong Kong, when it was going to be turned over to Britain, I was in California, and there was a great migration of Hong Kong people to not just California, but to Oregon, more so to British Columbia, where they're a huge group now because of mass migration. And a lot of people left Hong Kong. Those who could, there's many in Britain, of course, because they were a British Crown colony, which gave them certain rights, but not, absolute right to emigrate. But those with money, of course, can. So I see your point, but don't you think that Taiwan is used the United States in a different way?
Well, it may, and I don't want to speak for them. It's just that they are very hostile to the mainland Chinese government. I think the opinion polls show support for reunification at 7% in Taiwan. So these people are pretty justifiably fanatical about not wanting to be dumped back into the Chinese sphere of influence.
Right.
But the problem is they just can't. The island probably cannot be defended.
Right.
And we don't know. I don't know exactly what our response would be. I mean, there's been. Actually, I guess Biden did kind of blow the 20 years later after W already blew it, the whole strategic ambiguity by saying yes, we would defend Taiwan. But I don't know necessarily to what extent.
But you'd have to use, like Dave is saying, a fleet of what do they call them? Task forces of aircraft carriers, which have been obsolete for at least 10 years. because you can put a ship-killing missile on an atoll that can barely be seen, and there's plenty of them, and it can thread its way through a screen of smaller escort ships and destroy an aircraft carrier. Yet we continue to build these multi-billion-dollar dinosaurs like they used to. They built the battleships, At least they get. So how do you defend it? It would have to be nuclear.
But just so we're clear on your idea, Dave, so you would offer an option for Taiwanese to come to the United States.
They should be. They should create.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be give them like Catalina
anyone
Island.
from Taiwan perhaps could be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Give them Catalina. I've always thought, why not? Like with Hong Kong, you just take. There's so much like territory, like California. You can drive from San Francisco to Los Angeles. You got Santa Barbara. It's not like the East Coast of the United States where there's everybody lives on.
So you'd like to give the Taiwanese Santa Barbara?
No, not Santa Barbara.
Oh, well,
I was going to live in Santa Barbara.
Oh.
Catalina's probably not big enough. But there's, you could. Why not give them? Why not create a new place?
Oh,
could be its own like special economic zone, reminding the Chinese about when the British, French, Russians, and Germans and the United States occupied them with their own special zones. But hey, Dave, it's all a racket.
One idea would be to grant all of them citizenship in the U.S. if they want it. Again, there's probably other countries that would go along with this. It wouldn't just have to be the U.S. And I'll also get the process started of moving their chip plants to other places that are more defendable.
They're not going to move their chip plants.
They make most of the world's silicon chips, I guess, and there's this huge problem if Taiwan were invaded with keeping our computers manufactured going.
Particularly since many of those
another thing to withdraw. I mean, I just don't see anything else. This sounds like it's a terrible option having to withdraw like that in a sense, but it seems like the least bad thing. It's better than doing it under war conditions, and at least it's sort of an honorable thing, but it doesn't risk civilization.
Our friend Crystal points out in the chat room, but if Taiwan starts to evacuate to the U.S., wouldn't that incite China to start war? And I think that's a good point. I mean, if this were beginning to happen?
You mean the United States likes to incite wars?
Well, true.
Yeah.
So the counter to that, and I was thinking about that too. The counter to that was for the entire evacuation to occur under a state of alert. I guess if everybody was on alert during the whole evacuation process, then that would make it much more difficult for China to mount any kind of surprise attack. They wouldn't have strategic advantage anymore. But the window is closing where we can still do that. And again, I don't like this, but it just I can't think of anything else. Except, well, there is one.
Why don't let the Chinese handle it between themselves? Let them handle it themselves. Why does the United States have to interfere in every goddamn country in this world? 145 countries U.S. troops are in. Why do we have to? Why does the imperialist United States, which is utterly bankrupt, have to continue inciting conflicts all over the world? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, Vietnam collapsed, and they're shipping shrimp and textiles, finished textiles to the United States.
That's how. If
Taiwan becomes part of China, both countries claim they're China. You know, it's an internal matter.
Well, we do have the one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that if we were starting from zero, then yes, that's exactly how I'd look at it. But you have to bear in mind that, like, bailing on them right now is it's just. I don't know how to countenance that because of the fact that it's just such a betrayal of
what?
It's a betrayal.
Betrayal of what? You sound like a Republican in the 1950s and 60s. Oh, we lost China. So LBJ, I'm not going to lose Vietnam, and they'll have the Republicans bitch about that.
Well, that's why I'm trying to outline a suggestion for how it can. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why should the United States have been in China in the first place? There's a movie with Charlton Heston called 55 Days in Peking. The Leathernecks, that's famous. Well, they were there. They fought in the Boxer Rebellion. The Marines were famous for holding up. Why were we there in the first place? People like FDR's family fortune didn't. A lot of it came from railroads, but it also came from selling opium. Supplying the ships. The British prostrated the Chinese this week in 1840s. Actually, went to war with them, 2 opium wars, to force them to not ban opium. Why get involved with these other countries' internal matters? Well,
there's no good reason, but it was done a long time ago, and we can't undo that.
Yes, you can. That was the mentality. If you read The Best and the Brightest by David Halberstam, who won the Pulitzer Prize, that's the idea about not getting out of Vietnam, a losing thing. We've lost so many people. So how long did we stay in all these oil wars?
Right.
How long were we in Iraq? We have a commitment, this and that.
Right.
Who's we? I'm not. It doesn't do me any good.
Well, it's
the elites.
The military-industrial complex likes us to get bogged down.
And you have to remember that the Nationalist Chinese were one of the great bribers of Congress. In fact, they bribed a New Hampshire congressman. And that was one of the tangential issues in Watergate, which put its tendrils right up here into New Hampshire, and not just with dirty tricks like the Canuck letter. I mean, these are elites. It has nothing to do with me as just your average slob. I was thinking you'd say something exciting, like New Hampshire secedes and brings the Taiwanese here. Then you would have a powerhouse of a country.
There we go. I like that idea.
But the Taiwanese were always making their fortune trans-shipping Chinese goods. Before China was part of the WTO and part of our international trade system, the goods are made in China, and they were just stamped made in Taiwan. I wouldn't doubt if a lot of the chips made in allegedly Taiwan are made in China. I mean, when you really look at these countries, elites are elites.
Yeah.
They're all in cahoots in their own ways. It's like mafia families. I was going to F-bomb.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you even more on the libertarian side than me for once, John.
Well, when it comes to national defense, I think we should just have a Coast Guard and a very small cadre that can train people. National Guards people. Like you mentioned, Switzerland. Everybody has to be in the Swiss Guard.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. Everybody has their they used to have their rifle. And who knows? They're still not part of the EU, so they probably still have their rifle.
Yeah, of course that's the other sort of taxpayer-friendly solution in Taiwan. If they take this threat so seriously, they should just let their people arm themselves, which they do not currently do.
Yeah, fight them. Look at what.
They do have a military. Obviously, it's dwarfed by the Chinese military, but they do have a military.
Hey, look what the Viet Cong defeated the United States. We dropped more bombs on Vietnam and North Vietnam than we did in the entire World War II.
Well, yeah, that's the third. I guess that's the third solution is that Taiwan could do kind of what Lawrence of Arabia would have advocated. Yeah. That is, forget about the idea of any kind of concentrated defense and just disperse your defense and attack the Chinese everywhere after they've landed. China with tiny groups everywhere. So that would be another option.
China itself got the bomb in 64, 65. Taiwan should have developed the bomb.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know.
Give the gorilla some of these Davy Crockett, launching nukes.
I don't.
Hey, you're the one who said that on the new. Weren't you going to have a nuke? What was it called? The suzerain of the Avamaskig have nuclear weapons.
That's true. Well, I can be trusted. I will be very.
Since you were the suzerain, right?
Just let me have one. Or as I've said to Dave, if New Hampshire does secede from the rest of the country and become our own sovereign state, I think that we should have a nuke just in case. It's good to have one, just one. That's all we need, and I'll be in charge of it, and everyone can trust me with it. I'll be, I'll only use it if provoked. How's that?
Taxes are a form of theft, Dave, and so too many tax dollars and the debt go to this military-industrial complex.
Are you saying taxation is theft? You're a full-blown.
It is theft.
You're a full-blown libertarian once you say that.
No, not necessarily.
No, you are. That's that you just transformed yourself with that statement.
Politicians are what a loathsome class of people.
He's one of you now, Dave. He doesn't even realize it.
We're not even ants, Dave. We're not ants. We're just aphids being milked by worker ants.
That's very specific.
I'm an old Bolshevik.
Yes.
We're just aphids being milked. A politician just sees a person as somebody to either wring taxes out of or to give them help through social programs where they can create a money-making operation on the side, get their kids jobs, kickbacks, graft.
Well, that is true.
Yeah, so let them fight it out amongst themselves,
It may come to that. I certainly don't want to get into a nuclear war with China. That's for sure.
I wouldn't want to get into a nuclear war with anybody.
Well, yes.
Except maybe Dave's faction of the Libertarian Party.
Right.
And if you try to take over the suzerainty.
That's right. The suzerainty.
Oh, then there's going to be fighting.
That's right. That's why we need a nuke.
Who says we don't have one?
Oh, that's a good point.
Well,
wink,
we have
wink.
To, we have to bluff. Bluffsmanship.
Yes.
Brinksmanship. Bluffing's part of brinksmanship.
Now we're going to have the IAEA in here inspecting things.
Well, Stephen Comley's going to be here very soon.
Stephen Comley Sr., yes.
Yes. Be the nuclear whistleblower.
Well, I sure dread that. All right, Dave. Anything to add before you go?
I have eaten up enough minutes, but it does seem like there's just not very many solutions on the table, especially ones that save money. So those are the ones I can think of.
All right, Dave.
Sell the aircraft carriers to Taiwan and China.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead and plug something if you'd like.
Oh, nhexit.us.
All right, very good. All right, Dave Ridley, thank you for the call.
Thanks, guys.
All right, you got it. Bye-bye.
See, I thought he was going to make an exciting thing that New Hampshire secede and become New Taiwan.
I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, New Taiwan. If you'd like to get in with a call, we have a few minutes left. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. By the way, there is a comment in the Facebook live chat from our friend Isaac Banks from Greensboro, North Carolina. I think there might be a little bit of upheaval at the homestead. Isaac Banks posted this in the chat room. Hello, #Matt. I would like to give a shout out to my brother Mike Banks from Greensboro, North Carolina. Hello, #Mike Banks. Yo, listen, I was wondering why did you put the mail in the big bowl underneath the TV set? That's all I was asking, a simple question, because Grandma just want to know who checked the mail. She told me, bro. Well, be cool, man.
Hey, they make even less sense than my chatbot co-host.
I must tell you, and I wish I could help Isaac Banks solve this. I have no idea. Perhaps you do, John. Who put the mail in the big bowl underneath the TV set? That's a song, isn't it? Who put the mail underneath the bowl in the big TV set, or something?
Who has a big TV set anymore?
Well, apparently, here's the thing: in Greensboro, North Carolina, you got to remember that
big old tube.
That's the South. People still have old big TVs.
Right, with a gramophone
and you shove
that you crank.
And you shove the mail underneath it in the big bowl.
Yeah.
By the way, Isaac Banks also said something about Hall & Oates. I lost it. Anyway, Tom Blanchard said, good point, Hoppy. He agreed with your position, I think, on
but
Taiwan.
that the Bruins should be given a small nuclear device for the playoffs?
The Bruins? See, I don't like all this nuclear proliferation.
Oh, you Yetis, you Sasquatchy, you've always had a lot of trouble with bears. People mistake you as bears. Bears really don't like you. Bears are much cuter than Sasquatch, and they don't smell as bad.
See, that's very, very cruel.
When's the last time you saw a bear try to pass as a human being?
I have not seen that.
Winnie the Pooh. Maybe.
There was a hiker or someone recently killed by a bear here in New Hampshire, apparently.
Bears get, they have a very bearish temper when it's spring. They come out of that den,
But they only
probably having the missus bitch at them for like 5 or 6 months.
But they only do that.
Grumpy.
They only do that if they're starving, right? Attack a human. I don't know. I don't go out in the woods. I'm afraid of deer ticks.
Maybe he thought it was a Sasquatch.
I don't know.
Maybe he thought it was a Yeti.
It was a terrible thing. Yeah, a hiker or a runner or somebody got attacked by a bear.
Well, you shouldn't be trotting across the bear's den. It's like, out in California 30 years ago, there hardly any mountain lions. Now they're just, Christ almighty.
Really?
They're everywhere.
They
are, holy smoke.
Do they
can
attack?
Kill anybody.
Really, yeah?
Yeah. If you see a mountain lion, you stop and you back up.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Because if it's seen you, it's already had the ability to take you out. It's curious about you.
Yeah.
And if it's a female with cubs nearby. But there's killings all the time,
Do they come out and wander near population centers?
Well, it's because we expanded into their territories.
Oh, yeah.
But now that they're protected, they're breeding like, cats.
Mm-hmm.
Can breed. I never think of cats, though, as prolific, like bunnies or hamsters
right.
or something.
Yeah,
But, they can get it on. And so now they're showing up in L.A. in places where,
wow,
it's a big city. Losing a few Angelinos to a mountain lion, it's no big deal unless it's your relative or maybe a workmate. Then on the other hand, it could be somebody you despise, and so it could be a very win-win situation for you and the mountain lion.
Well, our friend Alex Whiteley from the UK is in the chat room. Hello, Alex.
A place where they killed everything but a fox.
In the UK?
Oh, yeah. They used to have bears.
Oh. Then they killed them all?
Big bears. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, they did.
Oh.
They just wiped them out.
Oh.
They bear baited them.
Hey, you used to live in California. Let me ask you, this is going to sound random, but just a quick question.
Matthew.
What would you do if you were in government in California and you had the power?
I'd steal everything I can, get on a plane, and go to a place without a U.S. extradition treaty. Next question.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah.
But about something specific.
Ooh.
What would you do about... I feel that California has a decision to make.
They do.
Regarding this past winter and what they went through. They had a worse winter, it would seem, than we had here.
It was really an SOB.
What do you...
Being on was... Oh,
I can imagine. I can imagine.
And bitching.
What do you do
with all that water?
No, well, there is that, but what do you do going forward? Do you say this was probably a fluke and nothing like this will ever happen again? Or do you say, because of climate change, this might be more common, maybe we should invest in some plow trucks and things like that? Serious question, because it seems to me they're going to have to make some decisions.
No.
So you think this was you think it was a fluke?
There was always snow up in the mountains. If you had to at a certain time of year,
but
go, like up to Tahoe, they'd stop you and you'd have to have chains.
No, I understand, but what they experienced this past winter in parts of California,
I say, I am a firm believer in AI and in a human apocalypse. Humans are they're like rats or cockroaches. I say get rid of them.
So you
replace them with AI.
Well, there was.
I'm not kidding.
There was that story.
There was
that I think it was at Facebook, or I'm sorry, Meta. There were a couple of computers with AI, and they developed their own language, and they started talking to each other, and they had to be unplugged because they developed their own language and nobody knew exactly what they were saying to each other. And that was a little unsettling, apparently, because for all we know, what they might have been saying to each other is, hey, let's kill all the humans and take over.
Well, Matt, when I was out in California, they launched a magazine called Wired, which a lot of people might know about.
Yes, I'm familiar.
I can't remember the writer's name. He wrote a book called The Nudist on the Night Shift.
Oh.
And he
sounds
wrote
salacious.
These satires about Silicon Valley when I was there, and they were fictional, but Wired presented them as nonfiction. So whenever I think of journalists, I think of Oh, yeah. Well, I can't use the Army phrase because this is a drive-by show, FCC and all that.
Uh-huh.
But you can stop fiddling with me. I've already been satisfied.
I see.
And it's like the other day, 2 people, same day, called me. Oh, something Glenn Greenwald said and about this guy that released this information about Ukraine in some type of chat room or something.
Yes.
And first off, a guy that was on our shows calls me and says, it used to be that journalists, they didn't do stuff like this. They didn't go and find somebody. The FBI should have found this guy. I said, no, journalists have always done that.
True.
And then another person called up, said the same thing. And by that time, I had lost all these solitaire games in a row on my computer. My hemorrhoids are acting up in my back and everything. So I was very waspish with her.
Yes.
Which, being a wasp, white Anglo-Saxon president, it comes naturally to me.
Yes.
And it was just, I later had to apologize to her grovelingly. But that's what journalists have always did. It's called investigative journalists, folks. They will go to that chat room and find the guy. Because the FBI sitting around on their dead ass, digesting their Bavarian cream donuts, trying to do as little work as they can for their pension. Why should they bother to do it? And, that's what investigative journalism is. When you look at Watergate, the whole thing is, oh my God! Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. They're like the Hardy Boys or something. They're like Boy Scouts. They go out there and they find the bad guys.
Uh-huh.
That's what everything was focused on.
Right.
Boy, they went and found the bad guys. There were other journalists that won other awards that were actually what it was all that Nixon was after. The information that Nixon was after, which incidentally does, according to Big Steve of North Bend, Washington, has to do with UFOs and satanic portals. This is 50 some odd years ago.
Yes.
And the JFK assassination.
Yes,
when
yes.
we use, the backwards relativity and all that.
No.
Not into physics and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what they do. It's like they're saying, a journalist is supposed to, talk about the issues and stuff. They're not supposed to find out what people do. Have you ever seen the front page? Won the Pulitzer Prize in 1928. They made the goddamn movie 3 times. And, it's journalists.
Right.
For Christ's sake, these aren't, priests or something. Let's not bring those poor people into this.
We're about, that's all right. We're about out of time.
So when you
but
say that, they're doing this and that, who believes in any crap that journalists pump out? Unless I write it.
Yes.
If I write it, you know it's true.
That's right. That's right.
It's true.
You can be trusted.
And I don't have a proverbial pot to micturate in.
The
only pot I have is around my waist. I don't even have any pot to smoke.
You can be trusted with journalism. I can be trusted with a nuke. We're very trustworthy around here.
That's right. Right.
We got to go.
Well, thank you, Mac.
Thank you. Wonderful to see you.
Me on.
Of course, you're always welcome. And thank you to our guest, Ed Opperman, for joining us earlier, too, for the first hour plus. Really enjoyed that. Fascinating conversation. If you missed any of it, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, mattconnerton.com. And I think tomorrow we've got a band, the Court Jesters, who are going to be Skyping in from Maine. And looking forward to that. Great band. And that's it for now.
And folks, don't worry about nuclear war. It's a good retro way of controlling the population.
There's that.
Be positive.
That's glass half full. And by the way, if you're listening live on Tuesday, coming up next, you have Rob Dion with Through the Stage Door, followed by a replay of Retro Spectrum Radio from last Friday night. We had a lot of fun, as we always do. And don't forget, be back bright and early, 7 a.m. for the morning show with Peter White. Talking to y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.
For love.